His hand clamped around my wrist like a vice. "You're signing this, Mom, just like Dad would have wanted." I tried to pull away, but his grip tightened. The loan papers sat between us on the kitchen table, innocent and deadly all at once. "Austin, you're hurting me." "Sign it." He twisted. I heard the crack before I felt it, a sharp, brutal snap that echoed through the kitchen. The pain hit like lightning, white-hot and blinding. I gasped, staring at my hand in disbelief. My finger bent at an angle fingers shouldn't bend. Behind Austin, his wife Natalie stood with her arms crossed, expression flat. Not shocked, not horrified, just waiting. My son had just broken my finger over a loan document. The boy I raised alone after his father died. The child I worked 3 jobs to put through college. The man I loved more than my own life. He looked at my twisted finger and didn't even flinch. "Now will you sign it? My name is Lena Whitmore." And that was the moment I stopped being a mother and became something else entirely. The emergency room nurse looked at me with knowing eyes. "How did this happen, Mrs. Whitmore?" "I fell," I whispered, caught my hand on the counter. She wrapped my finger carefully, her silence louder than any accusation. The splint was bright blue, impossible to ignore. "You should file a report," she said quietly. I shook my head, because I wasn't ready yet. Because part of me still couldn't believe my own son had done this. Because mothers protect their children even when those children break them. The doctor prescribed pain medication and told me to rest for 6 weeks. 6 weeks to heal a bone. But how long to heal everything else? I drove home alone, my good hand gripping the steering wheel. Austin hadn't offered to take me to the hospital. Hadn't even asked if I was okay. He just stood there, jaw tight, waiting for me to agree. When I refused again, he'd left, taking the unsigned loan papers with him and leaving me bleeding on my own kitchen floor. 3 days passed. No call, no text, no apology, nothing. On the 4th day, my phone buzzed with a group message. Austin had added me to a thread with Natalie, just checking if the bank followed up yet. "We need to close on the house soon, time sensitive." I stared at the message until the words blurred. My finger throbbed in its splint. The bruising had spread up my hand, purple and yellow, and my son wanted to know if the bank had called. Not how I was feeling, not if my hand was healing, not if I'd forgiven him for what he'd done. Just business. Just the loan. I typed and deleted a dozen responses. Finally, settled on silence. Because what do you say to someone who sees you as nothing more than a signature? Natalie replied to his message with a thumbs-up emoji. I turned off my phone and sat in the dark, wondering when exactly I'd lost my son, and if I'd ever really had him at all. The first time Austin raised his voice at me was 6 years ago. He'd just gotten married. Natalie was pregnant with their first child. I was teaching full-time and volunteering at the community center 3 nights a week. He called on a Tuesday evening. "Mom, we need you to babysit tomorrow." "Tomorrow? Austin, You're always busy. You never support my marriage." The words hit like stones. I stood in my kitchen, phone pressed to my ear, tears streaming down my face. "That's not fair," I whispered. "Whatever, forget it." He hung up. I called him back, apologizing. Rearranged my entire schedule. Showed up the next day with homemade food and a smile. He barely thanked me. Natalie didn't acknowledge me at all. I told myself it was stress, new parents, financial pressure. I made excuses for him, the way I always did. The way I'd done for 28 years, because that's what mothers do, right? We forgive. We forget. We break ourselves open trying to keep our children whole. My daughter Paige showed up unannounced on Saturday morning. She took one look at my hand and went pale. "Mom, what happened?" "I fell. Don't lie to me." Her voice cracked. She pulled out a chair and sat across from me, eyes searching my face. I'd never been able to lie to Paige. She'd inherited her father's ability to see through people. So I told her everything. She listened in silence, her hands clenching into fists on the table. When I finished, tears streamed down her face. "He did this to you?" I nodded. "And you didn't call the police?" "He's your brother." "I don't care." She slammed her hand on the table. "He broke your finger, Mom. He assaulted you." The word hung between us. Assault. I'd been calling it an accident in my head, a mistake, a moment of anger. But Paige was right. It was assault. "You're not protecting him anymore," she said firmly. "I won't let you." And for the first time in days, I didn't feel alone. That afternoon, I finally looked at the loan documents Austin had left behind. $840,000 for a house in the wealthy suburb where Natalie's parents lived. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a pool. The application listed Natalie's name first, Austin second. Mine was relegated to the cosigner line at the bottom. I read through the terms carefully. If they defaulted, I'd be responsible for the full amount. My retirement savings, my house, everything I'd worked 40 years to build, all of it would be at risk. And they wanted me to sign without hesitation, like it was nothing. Like I was nothing. I found a sticky note attached to page 7 in Natalie's handwriting. Make sure she signs all the highlighted sections. Not, please. Not, thank you. Just instructions. Like I was a task to complete. I sat back in my chair, staring at the papers. And something inside me hardened. Something I didn't know I still had. My husband's voice echoed in my memory. Lena, don't let anyone use you, not even family. I should have listened years ago. The voicemail came 2 days later. Natalie's voice, syrupy and false. Hi, Mom. Just wanted to say we're really disappointed. You always talk about family and being there for us, but when we actually need you, you flake. It's hurtful, honestly. We thought you'd be happy to help us build our future. Anyway, hope you're doing well. Call us when you're ready to be reasonable. She hung up. No mention of my broken finger. No acknowledgement of what Austin had done. Just disappointment. In me, for not letting them drain my life savings. I played the message 3 times, each word cutting deeper than the last. Then I saved it. Because something told me I'd need it later. I called Paige. I need a lawyer, I said. Good, she replied. I already found you one. My daughter had inherited more than her father's perception. She'd inherited his spine too. And it was time I remembered I had one of my own. The lawyer's name was Harold Fisher. He'd handled my late husband's estate 10 years ago, helped me navigate the financial chaos after cancer took him too soon. Harold welcomed me into his office with a warm handshake and concerned eyes. Lena, it's been too long. Paige told me some of what's happened. I showed him my hand, played him the voicemail, explained the loan. He listened without interrupting, taking careful notes. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. I need to ask you something difficult, he said gently. Do you still want to protect Austin? The question hung in the air. 6 days ago, I would have said yes immediately. Would have made excuses, found justifications, blamed myself. But today I thought about my twisted finger, the crack of bone, the coldness in my son's eyes. Not anymore, I whispered. Harold nodded slowly. Then we have options. He pulled out a file I didn't recognize. Your husband left something behind, something I think you need to know about. The file was labeled Contingency Trust, Austin Whitmore. My heart stuttered. Harold opened it carefully. After your husband died, I helped him set up a trust for Austin. $500,000, meant to be released when Austin turned 35. I knew about the trust. We'd discussed it before my husband got sick. But, Harold continued, there was a clause, one your husband insisted on including. He slid a document across the desk. I read it 3 times before the words made sense. Release of funds may be revoked by the grantor's spouse in cases of ethical breach, including but not limited to fraud, abuse, or exploitation of family members. My husband had known. Somehow he'd known that Austin might do something like this someday, that he might need protection. From our own son. The trust currently holds $673,000, Harold said quietly. Austin doesn't know the exact amount. He thinks it's less. I looked up at him. Can I revoke it? With proper documentation, yes. My broken finger throbbed. Then let's do it. That night, I wrote a letter I never sent. Dear Austin, I don't know when I lost you. Was it when your father died? Was it when you married Natalie? Or was it long before that? And I just refused to see it? I remember the day you were born. The nurse placed you in my arms and you looked at me like I hung the moon. I promised I'd always protect you. Always love you. Always be there. I kept that promise. Even when you forgot I existed unless you needed something. Even when you screamed at me for not babysitting. Even when you broke my finger and didn't apologize. I kept loving you. But love isn't supposed to break bones, Austin. And mothers aren't supposed to be signatures. I'm done. Not with loving you. I don't think I'll ever stop. But I'm done letting you hurt me. Mom, I folded the letter carefully and tucked it into my journal, unsent. But somehow, writing it helped. It made everything real, and it made my next steps possible. They showed up at my house on a Wednesday evening. No warning, no call. Just Austin's car pulling into my driveway. Natalie climbing out with a bag of takeout. I watched through the window as they approached, wearing casual smiles like nothing had happened. My finger ached in its splint. They knocked. I considered not answering, but curiosity won. Mom, Austin hugged me like we were fine. We brought dinner. Thought we could talk. Natalie set the food on my counter, already making herself comfortable. We want to move past this, Austin said, sitting at the table where he'd broken my finger 8 days ago. Family shouldn't fight over money. I stared at him. He looked so sincere, so reasonable, like I was the one being difficult. You're right, I said softly. Relief flooded his face. So you'll sign? No. I meant we should move past this, the loan, the house, all of it. His expression darkened. Mom, I smiled. Let's eat, and we did, like a normal family. While I planned everything, I waited until they were comfortable, until Austin started joking about that whole thing last week, like it was nothing. Then I pressed record on my phone, hidden in my cardigan pocket. She'll come around, Austin said, laughing. She always does. Natalie smiled. Honestly, she doesn't even realize how lucky she is to help us. Most parents would kill to invest in their kids' future like this. Right? And it's not like she needs the money. She's got her pension, the house is paid off. What's she saving for? Exactly. I kept recording. Every word, every dismissive laugh, every entitled assumption. They had no idea I was documenting their contempt, that I was building a case they'd never see coming. When they finally left, Austin hugged me again. Think about it, Mom. Please? I nodded. But I'd already made my decision, and it had nothing to do with signing. Paige came over the next morning. I played her the recording. She listened in silence, jaw clenched, eyes blazing. Mom, she said when it ended. Don't confront him. What? Don't give him a chance to defend himself. Don't let him know what's coming. She leaned forward, eyes fierce. Just outmaneuver him. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. She'd grown into someone strong, someone who didn't tolerate cruelty, even from family, someone I needed to be more like. How? I asked. She smiled. We use everything. The recording, the medical report, the voicemail, we document every single thing. And then we remind him that you're not helpless. For the first time since Austin broke my finger, I felt something other than pain. I felt power, not the cruel kind Austin wielded, but the quiet kind. The kind that protects itself. The kind that says, enough. Okay, I said. Let's do it. Harold scheduled an emergency meeting with the trust manager. I brought everything. The splint, the medical report, the x-ray showing my broken finger, the recording, Natalie's voicemail. The trust manager, a woman named Claire, reviewed each piece carefully. This qualifies, she said finally. Under the ethical breach clause, you have grounds to revoke the trust distribution. All of it? I asked. All of it. My hands shook. And Austin won't know until he tries to access the funds. The revocation is immediate, but notification goes to him within 30 days. Harold leaned forward. There's something else, Lena. The trust was also listed as collateral for the loan application. My breath caught. What does that mean? It means when the trust is revoked, their loan will likely be denied. The bank won't approve them without that financial backing. I thought about Austin's face. The house they'd already mentally moved into, the future they'd built on my broken bones. Do it, I said. Claire nodded and began the paperwork. And just like that, I took back my power. Thanksgiving arrived 3 weeks later. Paige hosted at her house. Austin and Natalie came, all smiles and expensive wine. They announced their big news over turkey. We're closing on the house next month, Natalie beamed. 5 bedrooms, completely renovated in the best school district. Everyone clapped. Paige caught my eye across the table. I sipped my tea and said nothing, because I knew something they didn't. The bank had received notice of the trust revocation 2 days ago. Their loan application was currently under review, and it wouldn't survive that review. Austin talked about the house for 20 minutes, the pool he'd install, the home office, the guest rooms for when Mom visits. I smiled politely and waited, because revenge served cold taste so much better than turkey. Natalie leaned over, squeezing my good hand. We're so excited for you to see it, Mom. I'm sure it'll be lovely, I said. It would have been, if they'd ever actually gotten it. The email arrived at 9:17 on a Monday morning. Paige called me, breathless. Mom, check the family group chat. I opened my phone. Austin had posted a screenshot of an email from the bank. Dear Mr. Whitmore, we regret to inform you that your loan application has been denied due to insufficient collateral and cosigner ineligibility. The trust funds previously listed as financial backing have been revoked by the account administrator. Below it, Austin had typed in all caps. What is this? Mom, did you do something? I stared at the message. Then I muted the chat. My phone started ringing immediately, Austin's name flashing on the screen. I declined the call. He called again, and again, and again. I turned off my phone and made myself lunch, because for the first time in weeks, I had an appetite. And for the first time in years, I had peace. Austin could rage all he wanted, but he couldn't touch me anymore. The text messages started that afternoon. I turned my phone back on to find 37 messages. Most were from Austin. You're ruining my life. How could you do this to your own son? Dad would be ashamed of you. You're vindictive and cruel. Natalie's family thinks you're insane. We'll never forgive you for this. On and on and on, paragraph after paragraph of blame and fury. Not once did he mention my broken finger. Not once did he apologize for hurting me. Just anger that I dared to protect myself. I read every message carefully. Then I forwarded them all to Harold. More documentation, I wrote. He replied immediately. Perfect. This helps our case if they try to contest the trust revocation. I smiled. Because Austin was so busy being angry, he didn't realize he was helping me. Every cruel word, every entitled demand, every message that proved exactly why his father had included that clause. He was building my defense, one hateful text at a time. Natalie cornered me in the produce section at the grocery store. I was examining tomatoes when she appeared, blocking my cart. You're unbelievable, she hissed. People nearby glanced over. Natalie, do you know what you've done? We lost the house, our dream home, because you're too selfish to help family. I looked at her calmly. I'm not obligated to bankrupt myself for your dream home. Austin is your son, and he broke my finger. She flinched. Finally, some reaction. That was an accident. No, it wasn't. Her face flushed. You know what? Fine, be spiteful, but Austin is my husband now, and I take care of what's mine. I met her eyes steadily. Then you can support him financially too. Her mouth opened, closed. She had no response, because she'd expected me to cave, to apologize, to make myself small again. Instead, I picked up my tomatoes and walked away, leaving her standing alone in produce, speechless for the first time since I'd known her. The lawsuit arrived 2 weeks later. Austin and Natalie were suing me for intentional interference with contractual relations. Harold read it and actually laughed. This won't go anywhere, he assured me. They're grasping at straws. He was right. The judge reviewed the case for exactly 12 minutes, then dismissed it. You cannot compel someone to co-sign a loan, the judge stated firmly. Nor can you sue them for revoking a trust that was legally theirs to control. This is frivolous. Austin's lawyer tried to argue. The judge cut him off. Dismissed. Next case. I sat in the courtroom gallery, hands folded. Austin turned to look at me, face red with humiliation. I didn't smile, didn't gloat, just looked back, because I didn't need to rub it in. The truth was enough. His own actions had destroyed him. I'd just stopped protecting him from the consequences. Harold walked me out. That's the last we'll hear from them legally, he said. I nodded. But I knew it wasn't over. Not yet. The family group chat exploded that night. Someone, I suspected my niece, had shared the whole story. The broken finger, the X-ray, the recording of Austin and Natalie. Messages flooded in. I can't believe Austin did that. Lena, why didn't you tell us? She's been protecting him this whole time. Natalie is worse than I thought. Austin's phone must have been ringing off the hook because he posted one final message. You've all heard one side. Mom is manipulating you. She's bitter and alone and can't stand seeing me happy. Paige responded immediately. She has a broken finger, Austin, from your hands. Nothing else matters. Silence. No one defended him. Not his cousins, not his aunts, not even Natalie's family, who'd apparently heard the recording too. For the first time, Austin was facing real consequences. Not from me, but from everyone. And he had no idea how to handle it. because he'd spent his whole life being protected by me, and I'd finally stopped. A letter arrived 3 weeks later. Handwritten. Austin's messy scrawl. I almost threw it away. But curiosity won. Mom, I know I messed up. Things got out of hand. The stress of the house, the pressure from Natalie's family, it all got to me. I shouldn't have grabbed you that hard. But you have to understand, you're still my mom. We're still family, and family forgives. I hope we can move past this. Austin, I read it twice. Not once did he actually apologize. Not once did he admit to breaking my finger deliberately. Just messed up and grabbed too hard. And the assumption that I'd forgive him, because I always had before. I tore the letter in half, then in quarters, then into tiny pieces that I threw in the recycling, because mothers deserve respect. Not half apologies with strings attached, not manipulation disguised as remorse. Austin wanted forgiveness without change, and I was done giving it. Harold called me into his office one final time. The trust revocation is complete, he said. I need to know how you'd like to redistribute the funds. I'd thought about this for weeks. Split it, I said, 50-50. Between Paige and her daughter, my granddaughter Sophia. Harold made notes. And Austin? Per the ethical breach clause he triggered himself, his name is removed entirely. Harold looked up. You're certain? I thought about my broken finger, the voicemail, the lawsuit, the years of taking me for granted. I'm certain. He nodded and finalized the paperwork. $673,000. Redistributed. To the family members who'd actually loved me, who'd protected me when I needed it, who'd never once made me feel like just a signature. I signed the final page and felt lighter than I had in years. The house fell through completely. They'd already lost their deposit, $15,000. Their credit took a hit from the denied loan, and with the lawsuit costs and Austin's mounting debt, they couldn't afford anything close to what they'd wanted. I heard through Paige that they'd moved into Natalie's parents' basement. Temporarily, they claimed. But 3 months later, they were still there. Austin had to sell his car to pay bills. Natalie took a second job. The life they'd envisioned, the pool, the guest rooms, the status, all of it vanished, because they'd built their dreams on my broken bones. And bones, when they heal, get stronger. I didn't celebrate their downfall, but I didn't mourn it either. Karma doesn't knock politely. It just walks right in and makes itself at home. The holidays came again. This year, I hosted nothing. No frantic cooking, no forced conversations, no pretending everything was fine. Paige invited me to her house, just us, Sophia, and Paige's husband. Small, quiet, peaceful. We played board games, watched movies, laughed without tension. Sophia climbed into my lap, careful of my healed finger, and whispered, "Grandma, are you happy?" I kissed her forehead. "Yes, sweetheart, I really am." No calls from Austin, no guilt trip texts, no manipulation, just silence. And for the first time in years, silence felt like freedom. I read a book by the fireplace that night, sipped hot chocolate, listened to Sophia giggle in the other room, and realized something profound. You don't have to break yourself to prove you love someone. Real love doesn't demand that. It never did. I bought a small cottage by the lake 6 months later. Nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms, a porch, a garden plot. I planted tomatoes and herbs, invited Paige and Sophia for weekend visits, hosted dinners with friends who asked how I was and actually listened to the answer. People sometimes asked about Austin. "How's your son?" I'd smile politely. "We're not in contact." "Oh, I'm sorry. Have you tried to reconcile?" "No." The shock on their faces was always the same. "But he's your son." "And I'm his mother. But mothers deserve respect too." Some understood. Others judged. I stopped caring which because I'd learned something crucial. You can love someone from a distance. You can wish them well. But you don't have to let them hurt you. Not even if they're family. Especially if they're family. My finger healed completely. The splint came off, the bruises faded, but the lesson stayed. And when people ask, "How did you forgive him?" I say simply, I didn't. I chose myself instead. And that choice saved my life.